Hey everybody, it's Jennifer Seger. Welcome back to my channel, The Seger Stories. Today we are doing an extreme clean. We came home with a rather large grocery haul and I was so embarrassed when I went to put things away in the pantry. I'm almost embarrassed to show this on camera how out of hand our pantry had gotten and our fridge. And definitely our spice cupboard too. There was just a lot that was out of place because we've been cooking so much and we had just so much on hand and so much to sort and organize. So I thought I would do a video with an extreme clean with you all so you can come along with me as we get rid of some of the things that are expired, we're not using, and just really dig in and make some good use of the space. And the first thing that I do usually when I get home with apples in particular, but sometimes with just produce in general, is get it cleaned. And so I put the apples in to soak with some water and vinegar while I worked on some other things, and then I could get them all scrubbed off because I absolutely hate the taste of wax on apples. So while all that was going, I was also getting stuff out of the fridge and kind of getting out of the bags and sorted and organized into different piles on the counter so I could just see all at once everything I had. I'm a big proponent when I'm cleaning. I'm always the clear out the entire space, clean it up, sort it, and then put everything back. So this was kind of step one, is just getting everything out on the counter, sorting into categories so I could see everything I had, from dairy and condiments to just an incredible amount of produce that we have on hand due to the Whole30. I mean, that's mainly what we are eating. And then had some different meats, and then we had just picked up some of the Good and Gather drinks that we like at Target as well. So I had my clean slate of my refrigerator and even got the whole door clean, and then I had to go in and I just used hot water and did a bit of a scrub. I started by wiping things down. Eventually some of it I took out and actually ran under soapy water in the sink because it was pretty bad. I couldn't believe it hadn't been too long even since I'd cleaned out some of this, and the drawer had just gotten really gunky. So good to have that clean, and then kind of started filling things up. So one thing that was really nice about taking everything out and starting with a clean slate is that I could adjust the shelves to work with what we had. I actually ended up lowering the top shelf because of this almond milk that we just picked up at Sam's Club. And then I wanted to take things out of containers, and we eat this chunky guacamole. We get it from Costco. We eat it all the time. And just for easy grab and go, I put it in this container and adjusted the shelf so we could get to that pretty easily. And then another container that we use frequently is for eggs. Because we buy in bulk, it's nice to have just a dozen eggs in a reusable container that are right inside the door. And then the bulkier packaging, because I think we get these 24 at a time, those can just sit on their own shelf, and then we can fill up the smaller egg container as needed. So the biggest challenge by far that I faced is getting all of the produce to fit in this drawer because I knew I needed the other one for fruit, and we only had 2 drawers for kind of the crisper to keep the vegetables fresh longer. So I really had to get creative with how I stacked things in here. And yes, I keep tomatoes in the fridge. I know most people say you're not supposed to do that, and avocados, but I feel like it keeps them fresher longer and we don't eat them as fast. So I did get everything to fit though, except for the spinach, which that's fine. That had to have a shelf of its own. And then I moved on. I had a similar problem with getting the kind of the meat and cheese drawer, everything to fit. We're of course not eating cheese right now, but have it on hand, and then we keep a lot of sausage on hand as well. And then the fruit drawer at this point really should just be called the apple and orange drawer. We eat so many, you've heard me talk a million times about the sumo citrus, and Nate and I both eat an apple a day. So that really took care of the drawer, and I used this other acrylic bin to put the grapes, blackberries, we had some kiwi and some lemon on hand. So don't have a drawer for it. Maybe someday we'll have a bigger fridge, but that worked just fine. So it's kind of in the front up where we could see it, and managed to make everything fit. And then it was time to move on and go through all the condiments. We had several things that were expired, things we weren't going to use anymore, and I got everything wiped down and put away. And, you know, we really should be doing commercials for Primal Kitchen, because I swear everything we own now is Primal Kitchen brand. But got it all to fit with a lot of room to spare, and poor maple syrup has its own little shelf. But the fridge came together, got rid of a lot of stuff. It looked so much better and felt like it was actually functional, so I was really happy with it. And there's one other thing that I do always keep in the door of the fridge, and that's a temperature gauge. Of course, this had been on the counter, so it was higher, but I always like that as a safety net. And next, it was time to tackle the very scary pantry. Again, you know my motto, get it all taken out, get it all cleaned up. This time I actually used the vacuum, I swept, and then I used our steam mop on the scrub mode. So I went over everything really, really slowly to make sure I was getting a good scrub and cleaning out, because it was just getting so nasty in there. I took everything out and I got the shelves wiped down, and it felt so good to have done. So I set everything out on our dining room table and tried to group in like categories so I could go through and, again, just get rid of things that we weren't using, that were expired, get all of the baking stuff together. Just took time to make sure that, you know, flour was still good and get everything refilled just so it fit in more neatly. Some things that we always have on hand are Lara bars or RX bars, and they can get really bulky. So I had this container, and it wasn't portioned out or anything, but I wanted to keep things somewhat separate by flavor. So I just cut the tops off the boxes to make it really, really easy to be able to kind of see what they were and then grab and go out of the pantry. I do have one container. I'll try to link it below. I got this at the Container Store years ago, and I love how it separates everything out, so I can use it for, I use it for tuna a lot, but also some of the baking spices and things. And here is one of my most favorite hacks, because I hate putting just potatoes, onions, things like that directly in baskets, because if something goes bad, it could ruin your basket, just make a giant mess. Plus the onion leaves or peels, whatever you call them, are just terribly messy. So I took Target sacks and kind of cut them vertically down the middle, and it happened to work out just perfectly with the baskets that I had, because once I cut off the handles, it fit almost perfectly and gave me a little lip around the edge too. And if I put them facing opposite directions, then I had kind of a little square box built out in the bottom of the basket. So I could add my potatoes and just kind of dump them in there without worrying about all of that stuff falling through onto the floor. So it worked out so well. And I had purchased, before I had a Cricut, I had purchased the flour, sugar, powdered sugar, decals to go on my OXO containers, but it had been bothering me for years that I had other OXOs that were plain, so I finally found a similar font and got those made and put on. And then I had, again, when I purchased the baskets years ago for the pantry, and I got the labels, but I never wrote on them. So I found this kind of Ray Dunn looking font that I thought was super cute, and it fit perfectly on all of the black labels. So I got all those done. It was really nice to have that done as a project. So the pantry turned out so well. I really liked it. It was kind of dark on some of the containers to see the font, but on camera it looks worse. In person it is a little lighter, a little easier to read. But I had just some things sorted out on the top shelf for baking, had all of our condiments organized, and then had room on the bottom for extra baking stuff, crackers, and snacks. And it's pretty funny because right now the only snack that we have on hand are some freeze-dried strawberries. So we'll fill that up eventually, but it was so nice. I just wanted to live in here and ignore the rest of the kitchen, but alas, I had to get that spice cupboard organized. So again, I started by taking everything out, and it was pretty easy on the bottom shelf because with few exceptions, we use this cupboard or what's on the shelf more than anything else in the kitchen. Not all of it's Whole30, but most of it does get used well and loved, which is why it's always a mess. So there wasn't too much that I had to purge here. I just put everything, kind of took it down, wiped it off, wiped everything out, and put it back. This is, again, what we use mostly every day. The spices we use a lot of, but they are constantly getting messed up and in different orders. So once again, I took everything out and alphabetized it. It had probably been maybe a year since I'd done that. So understandably, it got a little chaotic in there. But we have these 3 Lazy Susans that we use, and I tried to write labels. I tried to keep extra product behind product so we could easily fill things up, and I just put the 3 Lazy Susans in, again, alphabetized. Maybe I'll get around to making some better labels, or if you have an idea for a better system, please share it below in the comments. I'd love to know. But at the end of the day, the cupboard wasn't making me cringe when I opened it, so I met my end goal. All right, so that's our extreme clean for the kitchen and pantry. If you did like the video, please give me a thumbs up below. I'd also love it if you would subscribe to my channel, and loved having you. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you soon.